Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join me in honoring the colors by reciting with me the Pledge of Allegiance and for today's invocation by Cadet Stitt. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would, bow your heads with me. God, as we gather here today, I thank you for who you are and your promises. Thank you for your mercy and grace that you've given to us freely. And I also thank you for our country, that we live in a place where we can be free because of the price many have paid. And I pray for those who have sacrificed and their families. We've come today to honor several individuals who've greatly served us and our country, and I thank you for them and their service. I pray that you would help all of us as current or future service members to pursue a career of excellence as great as these men who have come before us and those who are sitting with us today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Glenn Howie, Chair of the Military Science Department here at ETSU. Welcome to the induction of the 7th class into the ETSU ROTC Hall of Fame. The ETSU ROTC Hall of Fame was instituted in 2009 to recognize superior achievement by ETSU ROTC alumni, as well as those that have made exceptional contributions to the program. To date, there have been 27 members inducted into the Hall of Fame, including this year's class. The plaques of those Hall of Fame members are proudly displayed in the ROTC wing of Memorial Hall. The plaques give our current cadets perspective on the proud history of this program, as well as the sacrifices and achievements of our Hall of Fame members. First off, I'd like to recognize several of our distinguished guests that are with us today. Mr. Bill Darden, representing Congressman Rowe's office. Dr. Brian Nolan, president of East Tennessee State University. Dr. Dennis Depew, dean of the ETSU College of Business and Technology. Lieutenant General retired Ron Hite, and Brigadier General retired Billy Stalcup. Thank you all for joining us today. First off, I'd like to thank Dr. Depew and the College of Business for the financial assistance they provided us to organize this event. The refreshments were a little late getting here, but you will have them after the ceremony. Without their generous support, we would not be able to put on such a fine event that honors our heroes that are being inducted into the Hall of Fame today. We have a fantastic turnout today from ETSU leadership, cadets and cadre, alumni, and most importantly, those here in front of you that we are so proud to be adding to the Buck Battalion Hall of Fame. I'd also like to welcome the friends and family of our inductees that were able to make it here this afternoon. Thank you all for joining us on this special day. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely pleased to report, since I saw many of you last year at this, is that the ETSU ROTC program is here to stay and is no longer being considered for closure. I personally heard this from our commanding general, Major General Peggy Combs, just 2 weeks ago. ETSU ROTC is postured extremely well within the Army's eyes, with 21 commissionees total this year, and we hope to commission our 22nd this week. Our program has not seen such commissioning numbers in over 25 years. To get to the point we are now, our program had unwavering support from congressional leaders such as Senator Alexander, Senator Corker, and Congressman Rowe. We as well had outstanding support from ETSU leadership, especially President Nolan. And finally, we had outstanding support from community groups such as the Tri-Cities Military Affairs Council. However, for all those people to get involved, they had to see that this was a program that was worth saving. Our cadre is the most professional in the brigade. They're continually sought out for external support, and best of all, they truly care about the development of our cadets. Our human resources assistant, Debbie Donaldson, as many of you know, has been here 31 years, and her passion for this program and its rich history is what motivates all of us to give our best on a daily basis. Our university executive aide, Angela Hare, intuitively knows what needs to be done behind the scenes to make things work right. And we all end up looking better because she takes such great care of all of us. This past spring, she received the Outstanding Staff Award from ETSU's College of Business and Technology, and we're real proud that she received that recognition. Finally, our cadets are the real reason this program is worth saving. As a team, they work together extremely well and achieve outstanding results. Some of the highlights from this past year were sending a team from the running club to compete for the first time in the Army 10 miler in Washington, D.C. Our supply technician, Mr. Mac Roberts, is the running club's mentor and donates a lot of his time to prepare them to become better runners, as well as taking them to races all over Northeast Tennessee. The running club is going to send another team to compete in this year's Army 10 miler, which is going to take place in a few weeks. The Captain Eddie Reed Ranger Challenge Team placed third out of 37 programs in the brigade in last year's Brigade Ranger Challenge competition. It's an excellent showing, and I know they're shooting for a first place finish this year, as they did 3 years ago. Master Sergeant Gus Riley is their Ranger Challenge Team mentor and does a fantastic job training them for excellence. Last year, ETSU was the only ROTC program to compete in the Small Arms Championship at Fort Benning, Georgia. In competition, they beat out a lot of active duty units that train on marksmanship much more often than our cadets get to, so they're really outstanding. This past spring, the Pershing Rifles team placed first in color guard, as well as second in both squad and platoon drill at the Pershing Rifles National Convention, which was really an awesome feat, considering it was their first time competing at that level. And Captain Emerton is the Pershing Rifles team mentor, and he does a real super job preparing them for success. And finally, competed again in the Mountain Man Memorial March, which the ROTC program does every year, and ETSU's team placed second in the heavy half marathon. These cadets and their desire to achieve excellence continues the first-rate tradition of this program that those on the stage began while they were here with us. None of us can ever get complacent, however, and we're gonna keep our foot on the gas to continue this program's excellence through a targeted recruiting program, as well as planning and executing first-rate training events. Our success, though, would not be possible without the generous support of ETSU, the dedicated work by the cadre, and the motivation to succeed by the cadets. Without further ado, we're now going to move on to honor this year's inductees into the ETSU ROTC Hall of Fame. First, we're going to honor Colonel Retired Marvin Bolinger. Colonel Marvin Bolinger of La Follette graduated from ETSU with a business administration degree in 1969, followed by a master's degree in city management in 1979. He was commissioned as a U.S. Army second lieutenant in 1969 through the ETSU ROTC program. He was deployed to South Vietnam with 101st Airborne from 1970 to 1971, where he earned a combat infantry badge, a Bronze Star, and an Air Medal, amongst others. Colonel Bollinger developed the helping hand concept to better prepare soldiers for Desert Shield, Desert Storm. He also helped develop the Lessons Learned program, which worked with family members to ensure that they were cared for while their soldiers were deployed. During 25 years of service, he held many positions, including safety officer, audit officer, assistant inspector general, and company commander until his retirement in 1994. In civilian life, he was the city manager of Athens, Tennessee, and Fredericksburg, Virginia, before accepting his present position as Chief Operating Officer of Silver Companies in Boca Raton, Florida. Colonel Bollinger resides with his wife of 46 years, Kathy. Together, they have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Colonel Marvin Bolinger.
Thank you, Colonel Howie, and distinguished guest. It's always a pleasure to be back at East Tennessee State, and I want to congratulate my fellow awardees. It's an honor to be included in that group. I have several friends here today, and I want to recognize them. I see my good friend Edgerton Burroughs, his friend Ann. He came over from South Carolina today, past chairman of Burroughs and Chafin at Built Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and currently a member of the University of South Carolina's Board of Directors. So we appreciate you being here, Edgerton. I look back there and I see my good friend, my fellow fraternity member, fellow cadet, Roger Kennedy, and his wife, Martha. You know, Roger, I was just thinking a few minutes ago that Colonel Kruger, a professor of military science back in the day when we were here, would probably be the most amazed person in this room that I'm standing here today. Because you see, Colonel K and I got really close. I was not a good student, so I got to know him fairly well. Following commissioning in 1969, fast forward about 13 months. And like all of my colleagues, I was on an airplane headed to some far distant place called Vietnam. Interesting. About 13 months after I left the university, I arrived in Vietnam. And shortly after arrival, I was assigned to the 101st Airborne as an infantry platoon leader and went through a day or two of orientation. And like all good then first lieutenants, climbed on a helicopter and headed west toward the Ashaw Valley to meet my first platoon. I was supposed to spend a few days on the job training with the platoon leader, which I was looking forward to. Needless to say, nervous, a little scared would be an understatement. The helicopter almost sits down on the LZ, landing zone. As I jump out, some guy almost bowls me over getting on the helicopter. A little strange. You know, he could have gone around me, but anyway, he evidently wanted to get out of there. I walked back into the jungle, and I could see the man there on the edge of the jungle. And I asked where the LT was. Oh, you just missed him. He left on that helicopter. So at that very second, I realized there'd be no OJT. I realized that I was responsible for this platoon of men. I had no idea who they were, what their names were, whether or not they could perform or not perform, and you didn't wear a rank in the field. I didn't even know who the platoon sergeant was. So that young man that told me that the LT had just left was an outstanding soldier that I have not seen for 44 years until yesterday. Warren, stand up. This was one of my soldiers. I walked out, and he took care of me. I looked at him, and I said, "Don't let me mess up, brother." He introduced me to the platoon sergeant and all. If any of you cadets in your first assignment are lucky enough to have an RJ, he was from RJ, Kentucky, Warren Mills, you're blessed. You're blessed. He was an outstanding soldier and a true warrior. We really appreciate you being here. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Following Vietnam, like many Vietnam vets, I wanted to distance myself from the military. The country was not in a good mood. the Vietnam vet was not appreciated or really respected. So with the benefit or the assistance of the GI Bill, I came back to East Tennessee State University and enrolled in the City Management School. What a great, great program that turned out to be. Shortly thereafter, a couple years after Vietnam, a good friend of mine suggested that I should look at the reserves. I still had Vietnam in my mind, in my memory, but I decided as a favor to him to do so. It was there that I met a young man named Bill Raines. Bill Raines, a fellow Vietnam vet, West Point graduate, retired as a major general, and wanted to be here today. He is currently working on a project in Chattanooga to build a Medal of Honor museum. And the mayor had a meeting scheduled for next Monday to consider that. The mayor flipped the meeting to today, so he had to cancel. But I do want to extend my appreciation to General Raines for nominating me for the Hall of Fame. So I really appreciate that. During Desert Storm, I had the distinct honor and pleasure of working with a number of outstanding soldiers. We ran the deployment command, and General Raines was the deployment commander, I was the deputy, and we had people like Colonel John Cox, who's here with us today, that served with us at Fort Campbell. Another outstanding officer. Please, John, let's give John a round of applause as well. To my family, I also need to recognize and thank Kathy, my wife. Just last week, we celebrated our 47th year of marriage after meeting here at East Tennessee State University. So we've been together a long time. Raise your hand, Kathy. She pinned on, as many others, she pinned on my second lieutenant bars and then was involved in every promotion subsequent to that. She was also a very active leader and member of family support groups, and we all know how important that is in the world of the military. Also want to recognize my son, Jason, his wife, Jennifer, my grandchildren, two of my grandchildren, Jackson and Shields, that are here today. They drove over through the rain today from Nashville to be here, and I really appreciate the effort. Wave, Jackson. There you go. To the cadets, I congratulate you. You are doing what some of the greatest men and women have done since 1775, by stepping forward, by offering to serve. And you know, in this world today, there are less and less that are offering. I applaud you, and I wish you Godspeed in your future endeavors. As I close, I'm not standing here today based on any individual effort or accomplishment on my part. I'm here thanks to all the people like RJ and John Cox and many others that I've had the great honor with which to serve and to work. Thanks again to East Tennessee State University, and may God bless each and every one of you associated with this great program. Thank you very much.
Check window over here. Sir, from ETSU ROTC, we want to present you with this plaque and induct you in our Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Wow. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Major General Brooks. Major General Ronald E. Brooks is a native of Rogersville who graduated from ETSU with a bachelor's degree in business administration and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army through the ETSU ROTC program. He also earned a master's degree in business administration from Butler University. Among his assignments were the Personnel Center at Fort Buchanan in Puerto Rico and a tour in Vietnam. After serving as school secretary at the Defense Information School at Fort Benjamin Harrison, he returned to Vietnam as an adjutant general of the 1st Aviation Brigade. He returned to Fort Benjamin Harrison, where he remained from 1973 to 1985, except for 3 years in Europe. After 2 years as commander of the Army Personnel Information Systems Command in Alexandria, Virginia, followed by a return to Europe, where he became Deputy Chief of Staff of Personnel for the U.S. Army Europe and 7th Army. Before retiring in 1995, he spent 5 years commanding the U.S. Army Soldier Support Center at Fort Benjamin Harrison. In civilian life, he's the Executive Director of the American Legion Marketing Services Group. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Major General Brooks.
That's my extra knees.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. I got 2 extra on this side, 2 extra on this other side. So don't go that route if you can avoid it. Colonel Howie, thanks for all you do here, and especially the work that I know went in when they were battling over keeping this unit alive. And I had the pleasure of, I was working in the American Legion at that time, to slip a note to the executive director there to send to the president to keep this unit here. And I'm glad to hear that that's what's going to happen. And it's good to be with all these fine honorees here and see the things that they've done. And it sort of reminds me, looking out here about my last departure from Vietnam. I served 2 tours over there, and I remember the last one when we were getting out of there. Everybody was leaving. If a vehicle went by and you asked for a ride, he'd say, "Are you going to Camp Alpha?" Because that's where you go to get on the plane. So I was trying to get out as quick as I could, and there was 2 Vietnamese standing at the ramp when I boarded. And I thought to myself, well, we really fixed those guys. We did them pretty good. I do think, though, that he probably threw a little Agent Orange on my butt as I left off the plane. So it probably was not all that fun. But at the same time, I was the guy that was scheduling most of the people out of the country. And so my fellow buddies in aviation at the time, I sort of fixed them up. I put him on the next to the last plane out. I got on the last plane. And I felt real good about that, so I got to San Francisco and found out the jokers were out there waiting on me. They went a different route and beat me out of winning the contest. But it was great to be there, and 2 tours in Vietnam is enough. Don't try to do it, but I want to put in here that the good thing that's happened here is football. We got football back at East Tennessee State. I played 4 years here. And my brother, who's not here with me, and I played 3 years. And so we got a little bit of education here. The place has changed a little bit. No way around. And now I know, I don't want to belabor this, Rogersville, Tennessee is a big town, so there's lots of them here to be introduced. Actually, I'm not going to introduce many of them. You have to pay me to get this introduction. But I do have some great friends with me, great relatives up here on the front row. My wife, Drusilla, and somebody mentioned Lynn married, well, I think we're 58 years together. And sometimes she can be tough. And I have my son, Richard, who's my oldest son. He's graduated from William and Mary Law School, became a stand-up comic, was never going to have any kids, never going to get married. He's standing back there in the back holding Max, who's 6 months old. and he is it. They was carrying him around. He's having a good time. So Richard's my main man. And my son Mark, who's an executive with a utility company in Indiana, and sort of helps me make a little bit of money. But he graduated from Ball State, went directly into the military, and served 4 years before he got it. I don't know, it could stay there. I can't read it anyway. So Mark's was in the 101st and demonstrated a lot of skill while he was there. And I've got Big Ed, I call him. Stand up here, Big Ed. He's good enough. If anybody messes with me and he's around, he can handle them. And we don't mention this, but he was born while I was in Vietnam. And when he was 3 months old when I first saw him, you didn't look too good then either, Ed. I just beat him up a little. You can't find him any better than him. My brother Dan, who played 3 years and got hurt, not able to play, and now he's the illness is pretty rough, and so but he played all 4 years. And his last year, I said, well, what were you doing your last year? He said, I was the head linesman. He was putting his markers down on the field. No, he stayed on and graduated. So, and two of the best things. Yeah, I got just about everybody, but I got Nancy and Larry Parker, Dickie. Who else? Who? Oh yeah, he's furnishing the food, Charles. But they're good people. I've enjoyed knowing them and being with them. But you know, I want to mention two things that was so good for me that I remember from East Tennessee State, and I never dreamed of this happening. Burley Davis was my coach at Rogersville. Burley Davis and Hal Morrison and Starwood drove all that distance to Rogersville and gave me a 4-year scholarship. And man, that was worth something because I didn't have 4 cents, much less a scholarship. And so Coach Wood was a great man, and I was surprised as recently as 3 or 4 years ago that he was the winningest coach at East Tennessee State. So he was a good one. And then the other thing was I played in every single game and came to every practice while I was here on that scholarship. And Starwood took care of me and lots of other good players. And so I'm glad that you brought back the football to school. Thank you very much.
John Brooks, on behalf of ETSU ROTC program, I'm real pleased to induct you into our Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
One more. Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave whatever falls.
Okay, sir. You're good. You're good. You're good, sir. All right.
Can you make it with
Yeah,
this?
absolutely, sir.
Key points may fall off. I've got some doctor's wages to cut this up.
Our next inductee today is Mr. Carl Hamilton. Carl E. Hamilton was a cadet in the ETSU ROTC program from 1957 to 1959 and served 4 years in the U.S. Navy. He then became the first federal civilian employee hired by the ETSU ROTC program. Several thousand cadets participated in the program at that time. As a cadet records clerk, Mr. Hamilton was responsible for all paperwork from admissions to commissioning. After 11 years, he transferred to supply technician responsible for managing all cadet uniforms, supplies, and equipment. He volunteered his services to the junior ROTC program at Science Hill High School and other units in East Tennessee. In addition, he earned both his bachelor's degree in business in 1973 and a master's degree in instructional communication in 1979 at ETSU. In 1998, after 32 years of service to the ETSU ROTC program, he has seen 850 cadets commissioned as second lieutenants into the Army. He continues to serve as the official timekeeper for the ETSU women's basketball team, a position he has held for 25 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to present to you Mr. Carl Hamilton.
This is a great honor that I never expected to receive. Back in the first part of May, I went to Moto's to eat. I opened my fortune cookie, and the fortune that I read said, "You will soon be awarded a great honor." I kind of chuckled to myself and was wondering, what kind of an honor am I going to receive? About 3 or 4 weeks later, I had a call on my answer machine at the house, and it was from Colonel Howie. I couldn't understand what he would want to talk to me for. I called him the next day, and he told me that I had been elected to the ROTC Hall of Fame. Now, in my older age, I'm a whole lot more emotional than I was 30 or 40 years ago. So I kind of got choked up when I was talking to him. It's a little bit hard to talk and have tears running down. But people, I'm very grateful for this honor. I'm grateful to the people, and I want to thank those who elected me into this honor. I want to thank Colonel Meisner, who, for whatever reason, thought that I was worthy to be nominated for this honor. I've known Colonel Meisner since he came here. We've been friends for many years now. And he happens to be one of the most down-to-earth and humble officer that I have ever met. And I met a few while I've been here for 32 years. I see several sitting out here in the audience today who were cadets at one time while I was here. Unfortunately, Colonel Meisner wasn't able to be here today. He's out in Colorado with his daughter who had surgery yesterday. And Colonel Meisner's wife is here, and I talked to her about his daughter, and she said that everything went great, and his daughter's getting along good. So he's going to be out there for a while to see how much he can help her out and do for her. Another officer who is not here today that I would like to recognize, and that's General Harrell. General Harrell came here as a cadet. At that time, I was working as the cadet records clerk. General Harrell was the first 4-year ROTC scholarship that we had here at ETSU. Again, I would like to thank those who elected me into this honor. I would like to thank Colonel Meisner, and to all of you who have been in the military, for all of you who are presently serving in the military, and for those of you who will soon be in the military, I want to thank you. And I want to thank you for your service to the ROTC and to the United States of America. ETSU has always had an outstanding ROTC. We've always been up there at the top, and I enjoyed working here for 32 years. Thank you.
I'm proud to induct you today into the ETSU ROTC Hall of Fame. Okay.
Thank you.
Our next inductee is Dr. Roy Eikenberry. Roy D. Ikenberry is a native of Raton, New Mexico, and received a bachelor's degree in biological sciences in 1962. He then earned a master's degree in biological sciences at Texas Tech University in 1964. After 2 years as an instructor at Eastern New Mexico University, he entered a doctoral program at the University of Oklahoma. After receiving his PhD degree, he was hired as a faculty member at ETSU. During his 12 years of teaching and another 11 as Director of Instructional Institutional Research, he actively supported the ETSU ROTC cadets and cadre. He mentored cadre members in ways of university-level instruction and served on scholarship boards and other liaison activities. He continues to serve on the ETSU Foundation Board. He has 2 children, Jerry and Kevin, who are graduates of ETSU. He has 4 grandchildren, Matt, Allie, Gabby, and Lily, and currently resides in Sun City, Arizona, with his wife, Marion. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Roy Eikenberry.
Wow, what an auspicious occasion. I want to thank the ROTC cadre and the selection committee for this great honor. It is a real honor because I think I'm the only civilian in the group. I've been a civilian all my life, but I've been associated with ROTC for quite a while. I have to say this, brevity is not my long suit, okay? My kids have told me many times that after they had asked a question, I would give them what they referred to as a 25-cent lecture, usually about 30 minutes worth. So I'm not going to be that long at this point. My wife, Marion, stand up, baby. Stand up. My wife was beautifully stated this. She says, keep it short, say thank you. So I'm gonna keep it short. My intro to the ETSU ROTC program started in 1969 on the Friday of homecoming at the university. Okay? A few years later, I'm back. But on this particular day, the ROTC unit was given a demonstration in a number of areas. But the one that struck me most is I was walking from the old science building toward the old student center, past Ball Hall, and there was a ruckus above me, and I looked, and here came 3 of the cadets down that sheer wall, 4 stories, one acting in the role of a wounded soldier in a litter basket, and the other 2 and the Australian rappel firing their weapons. I was impressed, okay? Do you know what the Australian crawl is? That's face down. You don't face the wall, you face the ground. And they had their weapons blazing. It was really cool. Let's fast forward a little bit. Somebody else has used that, and that's a good way to go, fast forward. In 1981, I left the faculty of East Tennessee State University's Biological Sciences Department and became the first director of institutional research. Now, all of my faculty buddies just told me flat out, I had just joined the dark side. I was now a member of the dark side. I was an administrator. It was about that time, too, I think, that I met our current president as a graduate student at the University of Tennessee, I believe, Brian. But what happened during that period was the institutional research is an arm of the university that basically, I hate to use the term massages data, but we have huge amounts of data on this campus, lots of data. Student data, faculty data, financial data, building data, it just goes on and on and on. And somebody in President Nolan's position does not want to go through all of this stuff. He wants a 1 or 2 line synopsis, and that's what basically institutional research does. I served in reporting to the federal government, to the state government, to the local governments, to my administrators, and I also would answer questions of anybody coming off the street. I knew at that time how many identical twins we had on campus, and I knew how many left-handed students we had on campus. Now, that's a crazy job, but I enjoyed it from the standpoint that that's when I first really became involved with the ROTC cadre. The recruitment officer was always there at my desk at fall census. That's the date that we send in all of the fall data. And he wanted to know a number of things. Mostly, it was all demographic, it was all summary. I never gave names, I never gave social security numbers, it was just summary data. But they were there, and I was always willing, and I knew most of these guys because although it doesn't show it today, I was a runner. And many of the ROTC cadre are runners, just like most of the cadet corps are runners. You have to do something for PT, and that's one of the principles. So I had an association early on there in that role, and I met Colonel Retired Mike Conley at that point. And we have had a wonderful relationship since that time. Mike, would you stand up, please? Thank you. Mike was in the ROTC cadre and one of the runners, and we enjoyed our association with one another. In 1988, I came face-to-face, up close and personal with ROTC. My son Kevin came on campus as a freshman, and he joined ROTC. And in the process of joining ROTC, he also became joined at the hip with another Kevin Strickland. The two of those guys were roommates for 3 years. They went to OBC and roomed there. Incidentally, they OBC in Fort Knox, and one of them has the notoriety of trying to fly an Abrams. The other one tried to make it a submarine. He went into a water hole a little too deep. I'm not going to tell you which one was which. Why don't you guys stand up, if you would? My son is a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserve, and Kevin is a pharmaceutical rep, not a drug salesman, a pharmaceutical rep. Appreciate you guys very much. Kevin came in as a boy, literally a boy. After 4 years, he was commissioned as second lieutenant and left the university a real man. That's what ROTC does for you. You grow up an awful lot, and it was good. I lost my wife of 51 years about 4 years ago, and at that time, I started the memorial scholarship in her name with one stipulation in it. The individual that would receive the scholarship would be either a cheerleader, because my daughter had been a cheerleader on the campus for 4 years, or an ROTC cadet. And that is the privilege that I have now of just knowing that somebody in this room perhaps has received this reward, this scholarship. I hope you have. But I would like to say one thing to the cadets. You all have the best training that you're ever going to get in life, not just the military. And I appreciate every one of you. And finally, I would like to say thank you to all who served our country. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
Dr. Ikenberry, it's my pleasure to induct you into the ETSU ROTC Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, sir.
Our final inductee today is Colonel Retired Chester Smith. C.C. Smith, a native of Morristown, graduated from ETSU with a bachelor's degree in biology in 1964 and was commissioned as an Army second lieutenant through the ETSU ROTC program. A platoon leader with the 25th Chemical Company in South Korea, he returned to the U.S. in 1966. As a newly minted captain, he was sent to Vietnam with the first shipment of gravel anti-personnel mines. After attending the Chemical Officers Advanced Course, he was assigned to command ordnance companies in Germany before being named chief of an instruction branch at the Chemical School at Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland. Next, he was selected to go to the Kingdom of Jordan to establish a chemical school and a nuclear, biological, and chemical defense program, a task he repeated the next year in Portugal. A tour as a commander of the 267th Chemical Company on Johnson Atoll followed. Before his retirement in 1993, he also served in London, England, as a chief of the Chemical Defense Section at the Pentagon. Ladies and gentlemen, proud to introduce Colonel Retired Smith.
Thank you, Colonel Howie.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not sure whose speech that is. It's not mine. So anyway, I apologize. 2 months ago, I had hip surgery replacement, so I'm still recovering and have to walk around on the cane. So there are many friends I have in the audience. Specifically, several of them are my ROTC classmates. I'll point out General Hite, Bill Frank, and there are maybe a couple of other fraternity brothers out there because I am a Sigma Phi Epsilon like Dr. Nolan. So we have that to look forward to tomorrow. So I am very grateful for this opportunity, and I want to thank the ROTC program for inducting me into the Hall of Fame. So I have no prepared speech, but I appreciate very much what you all have done. Thank you.
Colonel Smith, real proud to induct you into the
Well, thank you.
ETSU ROTC Hall of Fame today.
All right,
So,
thank you.
do you want me to keep this back?
I'll go.
You got it, sir? Okay, good. Well, thank you all for joining us today for this special event. I want to personally thank Mrs. Angela Hare, our executive aide, for planning the logistical details of this ceremony. She's a godsend to the program and keeps us all on the right path. As you all know, this is homecoming weekend. We're thrilled to see all the alumni back in the audience today. Many of you all have tickets for the football game tomorrow, and I look forward to sitting with you at the game. Whether or not you have tickets to the game, I invite everyone to join us for tailgating in Freedom Hall Parking Lot A, next to Science Hill High School. That's where the game's being played tomorrow, if you're not aware of that. So the ROTC program, we're getting catering from Phil's Dream Pit Barbecue. Hey, we're gonna have plenty for everyone. So we look forward to having everyone out there tomorrow, as many alumni as we can, to have a good time, so you all can interact with our current cadets and everyone gets to know each other a little better. So additionally, if there's any alumni that hasn't been on campus in a while and you want to see our facilities, I'd be more than happy to take you back and show those to you after the ceremony. So just link up with me afterwards, and we'll walk back there. Well, this concludes our ceremony, and let's give one last round of applause to the inductees.